All right, we are now getting further into October, getting closer to our midterm. It's a Monday. We've had since Wednesday to kind of think about our animation and to forget, sadly, the steps it takes to create animation frames. But it all starts with our storyboard, right? So last class, I asked you to finish your storyboard sketch, the rough storyboard, and get that put up into Canvas just so you can acknowledge the deadline. We're going to be working today to try to get as much animated as we can on that project. Animation does take time, and I'll show it all in class. And then next class is when it's due. But there are 3 components for this assignment. That's why it's extra long. You have the storyboard sketch, which kind of shows the transformation. Remember, the requirements are that you use at least one asset you've already created in the class. You can use it in the background. You can use it as your focal point. But as long as you're using something you've already created, that means you're not starting from nothing. And that you feature a transformation, something that changes state from beginning, middle to end. So that's more than just walking or moving or flapping wings, right? It's actually a change of state, change of color, change of texture, change of shape in a major way, right? Which I'm kind of doing by having like an egg explode and change shape and having something pop out of it instead of just movement. And if you want to check if your storyboard is showing a transformation rather than just movement, I'm happy to give you that input. Then we have the GIF animation we make from that. Our GIF animation is formatted at 8 by 8 inches by 100 pixels per inch, so 800 pixels square for screen presentation. And then if I don't get to it today, it will be at the beginning of next class. But the last thing is once we're finished with our animation, we create what's called a refined storyboard. So a refined storyboard is a print version of our animation, which takes 9 frames from our animation and tells it like a comic book, 3 square frames in a grid, just like our rough storyboard. So those are the 3 components required. So what we went over last class is we really went over how to plan your storytelling and your transformation through your rough sketch. And then we learned how to build in 2 different PSD files the assets you need, and then to bring those assets to set them up, and then to bring them over to your stage in order to create what's called an animation workflow. If we go to the assignment, this is assignment 3, it's under unit 8. No, it's under unit 7 rather. But I can shortcut to it right by going to assignments and where we post it. If I scroll to the bottom of this, where it gives the directions and gives examples, these are the 3 components that are required. Rough storyboard sketch, the animated GIF at 8 by 8 inches at 100 pixels per inch, and then a refined storyboard, which will actually format to be 30 by 40 inches at 100 pixels per inch. Because if you change that to 300 pixels per inch, which is or print resolution, then this becomes, something that's easy to print around 8 by 10. But at the bottom here, you will see what I had up on the whiteboard. So this is what I recommend you do beginning of this class. Go to the assignment. Maybe you've posted your rough storyboard sketch. That's great. But go to the end of the directions and then just drag and drop this image to your desktop. That shows the animation workflow from assets to stage. Then just double click it once it's on your desktop. Open it up in preview. Just like I often kind of reference my digital sketches while I'm working in Photoshop. And just set it off to the corner like that. So you can always see what those steps are. I've made it in 10 steps, with step 0 being setting up your desired animation frame. So now, with that in mind, I can open up, I apologize for my messy desktop here, but I can open up my master folder, my assignment 3 folder, and now I am looking for 2 different animation files. I am looking for my assets file. That's not it. There it is. That's why I like to do assets in all caps and stage in all caps so I can see them. I'm first going to open up my assets. This is where I build all of the different layer components to make the animation frames I want. We're using the metaphor of stop motion animation. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to open up my stage file. This is where I put my finished animation frames. So last class, I'm rolling this egg. I'm doing a movement test, right? And by moving them over to the stage, I could see that I wanted texture on the egg, I wanted directional lighting on the egg, I wanted a shadow underneath the egg, and I need to figure out how it would roll before it hits this, all because my storyboard sketch shows that an egg rolls into my frame. So let me open up my storyboard sketch as well. That's another good thing to reference. And you can just reference it from your sketchbook. But the egg rolls in, and then it bumps against the side of the boat, and then it cracks, and then all this stuff happens. So I've created 2 finished animation frames, but I've created assets for a lot more than that. So let's kind of lock in and figure this out. So on my assets file, I have a bunch of layers that kind of set my scene. And this was the last frame that I used. So this is actually, I need to be on step 8 because I haven't cleared this yet. So I have to hit Command D to make sure nothing's selected, then delete to delete this combined frame. And now I'm ready for step 10, which is to start again with step 0. So my first step is to set up my next desired frame. So this is what the last frame was. That's what's set up here. What kind of things am I moving? I'm making the mist and the fog ebb and flow. If I want to be reminded how I do that, I just toggle between the first and second frame. And it looks like I'm just stretching the mist a little bit and brightening the sky. So maybe that's the first thing I set up. I'm going to turn off the guides for now, which help me place my egg. And I go to my background. And I can take this sky, I'm going to duplicate it, Command J. And I'm actually going to take its opacity down on the duplicate so that it's going to kind of start to get stronger. So put it at about 10%. And then I'm going to stretch it. See, I stretched it a little bit. Now I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to stretch it some more. A little bit more. Oh, that's going to be too subtle. So let me stretch this one. So this would be my stretchy one. Maybe I don't even need to duplicate it. See, that's at 46. I'll just make this a little bit stronger, like at 40. Let's do it at 50. Then I'm going to stretch it a little bit further, holding down Shift. Okay. So I've now moved the sky. So I can see that difference from this to this. It helps to hit Command 0 to get everything centered. See how that sky changes? Kind of shifts over. Okay, then in terms of the sky changing color, I was just going to fade in and out this layer. So I'm going to push this up to about 15 or 16. So you can see how there's a little bit more color now in the sky. But all of that's going to be kind of subtle background compared to the moving of the egg. So the next thing I need to do is show this movement of the egg. So I created my assets for the egg. This layer is showing now. I want to now show the next layer in my movement cycle with the shadow underneath it. Now this is my finished frame. And it's basically looking like the second frame that I animated, right? Or that I put in my rough storyboard. So how do I get this over to my stage? That's where this workflow comes in. Zoom in on this a little bit so I can check it as I go. So the first thing, step 0, I set up my desired frame. That's in Assets. I'm in Assets. Next, I click the top visible layer. So I have to scroll to the top. I click on that topmost visible layer, the one that has the eyeball on it. Then I hold down Option while clicking on Layer, Merge Visible. That will give me a combined layer at the top. Then I hit Command A, this is step 3, to select it all. You see the little marching ants around it. Command C to copy it all. Then I move over to the Stage file. So I click on Stage, which is this file tab. And then, step 6, I hit Command V to paste it in. Now I have 3 animation frames. And they look good. You see how the sky starts to move and the colors start to change and the egg starts to roll. So far so good. Now I click on Assets, step 7, and then I hit Command D to deselect, step 8, and then I hit Delete to delete that combined frame so I can set up my next layer. And now I start again with step 0, set up my next desired frame. So what's going to move next? I'm going to duplicate the sky again. I'm going to make it just flicker back a little bit. And then stretch, Command T, hold down Shift, stretch it out a little bit more. Why am I only stretching it on one side? Well, because wind is usually directional. So I don't want it to grow. I don't want to zoom in on the sky. I want it to feel like it's just moving across. And then the lighting, I'm going to change this. I'm going to brighten it up just a little bit, the sky. See if that's too much. That's probably about as bright as I will make it. That's 24%. And then I can make it ebb and flow, like pull back, go forward, pull back, go forward. So all I'm doing there is I'm playing with the opacity of that layer asset. And now I got to move my egg. So I move it to the next step. Boom. And I'm ready to start with step 0. Click on the topmost visible layer. Hold down Option, Layer, Merge Visible. Command A to select it all. Command C to copy it all. Command V to paste it in. Now once this video is over, like these 15 minutes of me doing this workflow, I'm going to come around and make sure all of you have an assets file and a stage file that's set to be 8 by 8 inches by 100 pixels per inch, and that you understand these steps. I also want to make sure you all have a storyboard sketch so you know the story you're trying to tell. And even if you do this assignment really roughly, which is often true of GIF animations, they're glitchy, they're not smooth or clean, but they'll tell a story. And they do it with a certain amount of charm, because GIF animations are very low res. So as long as you can set this up and understand it, you can get your story told. I'm not worried about that. It doesn't take any certain amount of skill or experience to be able to learn that. But you do need to set it up correctly, and you do need to kind of understand the process. And that's what time-based media is all about, whether you're doing video editing or animation or special effects or any other digital discipline. Every once in a while, I'm going to hit Command S on my stage, so it saves all of those animation frames. I now have 4 animation frames that are telling my story. My egg is rolling in, my sky is changing color, and the mist is kind of rolling. But I'm still not even quite to this keyframe yet. That's because I'm making in-betweens to really show that egg roll. But I know where I'm going because of my sketch. Now, I'm back on step 8. I hit Command D to deselect, then Delete to clear the merged combined layer. And now I set up my next frame. I'm going to start with the sky. I'll just go from the bottom up. And I'm going to take it down a little bit now. And then I'm going to duplicate the mist and transform it and stretch it.